Happy New Year! I hope your 2025 is off to a great start. I do know that it is wonderful to be back in Florida. The greatest chapter in the story of Elijah's life took place on Mount Carmel. No, not Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, where the Red Tornadoes are the winningest football team in the history of the state. The Mount Carmel that we are talking about today is in northern Israel, a very significant place. And we find ourselves there in 1 Kings 18 at a very significant time. Starting at verse 16, let's read down to verse 39. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When he saw Elijah, he said to him, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" "I have not made trouble for Israel," Elijah replied, "but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table." So Ahab sent word throughout all Israel, and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and said, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." But the people said nothing. Then Elijah said to them, "I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God." Then all the people said, "What you say is good." Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire." So they took the bull given them and prepared it. They called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. "Baal, answer us," they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered, and they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. "Shout louder," he said. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." And they came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Your name shall be Israel." With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, "Fill 4 large jars with water, and pour it on the offering and on the wood." "Do it again," he said, and they did it again. "Do it a 3rd time," he ordered, and they did it the 3rd time. The water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. And when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, he is God! The Lord, he is God!" So we see that Mount Carmel is the place where Elijah called down fire from heaven, defeated the prophets of Baal, and turned the hearts of the Israelites back to God. The word Carmel means fruitful ground, but before Elijah could get to Mount Carmel, He had to go through two places. First, God led him to the brook called Cherith. The word Cherith means to make covenant with. And it was here that Elijah discovered that God is a covenant-making and covenant-keeping God who can sustain you through the hardest of times. It was here during a drought and famine that ravens brought food to him each day, and he drank from the refreshing waters of the brook, as we see in 1 Kings 17, verses 1 through 7. Now Elijah the Tishbite, from Tishbe in Gilead, said to Ahab, "As the Lord the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word." Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. "Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there." So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan, and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. And sometime later the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. Now when God allows your brook to dry up, it's in order to drive you back to your true source, which is himself, that you may get further instructions. Secondly, God led Elijah to the widow in Zarephath. The word Zarephath means to refine as in a melting pot. Gold is not pure in its original form. It must be refined. And this is accomplished by heating it to the boiling point. The heat separates the raw substance from its impurities, which surface and then are skimmed off. And God will do the same for us by using the heat of trials to separate the gold from the dross. Dross is the refuse of smelting of precious metal, which is used figuratively of what is base or worthless in our lives. So God wants to get rid of that. God knows the experiences that we need to reach our Mount Carmel, the place of fruitfulness. So trust him. He knows what he's doing. I hope that you will join us for our first worship gathering of 2025 this Sunday at the Village Church. Our services are at 9 and 11 a.m., and we would love to see you here. Although you can worship with us anytime online on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel at the Village Church at World Golf Village. And don't forget, the first installment of our monthly concert series for 2025 is this Sunday with Nick Patterson. The concert begins at 2 o'clock. It's free, and it's open to all, so come out and bring some friends. It'll be a great afternoon. Have a great weekend, church, and I'll be back on Monday with more from the Word for You today.